negative degrees. So he left it.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. We are here again at JT Westbrook for. Oh, woo! Okay, all right. We got a live studio audience as always. This one's a little rowdy. Uh, but we are here for our monthly series, Meet the Author. The point of Meet the Author is to ensure that we highlight our stories locally here in South Florida, our local Black stories, especially to ensure that we have voices and representation. Our authors don't always get a platform to talk about the things that they're up to, and I wanted to make sure that we gave that platform. So JT Workspace, it's a Black-owned, women-owned, family-owned business in Hollywood, Florida. Make sure you come check it out, jtworkspace.com. But why we're actually here today is for my friend right here, Miss Eunice Diona. I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
When you told me that you were an author and you had a book, I think the first thing I said was, "You need to be on my Meet the Author series."
Yes, you did. You did.
So before I get into the book and what the book is about, let's tell this audience a little bit more about who you are and where you're from and how you came to be my friend.
Okay, so my name is Eunice Diona Flowers, but my writing name or my pen name is Eunice Diona, and I chose that because it's not going to change, right? Your first and your middle name don't change, so I knew that was going to be stable, so I chose that. And I am a Miami native. I was born and raised here in Miami, Florida, so this is home for me. And how I came about, okay, so a little background, which gives the tech part of the book. So it's not just a book, but it also integrates technology, which I thought was going to be very important to keep it very modern, right? So we want to move with the times. A lot of like now books aren't the books like when we were growing up, the way that we understood books to be, where it's something physical that you're just holding. A lot of people have Kindles now, where books are becoming digital. And so I wanted to integrate technology, but also have it where it's still something of the old school, right? For kids. So that whole science or STEM based thing came out of the fact that I have a degree in chemistry. So I always loved science. I was always into science. Science is just my thing. And I think it's just the analytical aspect of that. And so me becoming an author, that started actually writing a book. So I've always written poetry. I'm all into the poems and expressing yourself and all that. So this year, through my company called Beautiful Gates Production, I was asked by the city of North Miami Beach to put on a cultural arts, more specifically a Black history show for the city. And when I started to do the research for that city, I wanted to do a special section for the Black people in North Miami Beach that had incorporated the city. So I thought about it because I did, it was a journey through Black, but through music. So we told the story of Black history in America through music, right? And what I did was I chose specific times, specific civil struggles, political struggles for Blacks, and then the music that went along with it. And I highlighted it, and we just did a whole show. And so there was the interlude, or like that middle section. I wanted to do something specific for the city of North Miami Beach to highlight the Blacks that had come out of that city, such as Garcelle Beauvais. A lot of people know her as as the actress off of I'm so bad with names, but what's the show?
She was with Jamie Foxx, the Jamie Foxx show.
Yes. So she graduated from North Miami Beach.
Okay, did not know that.
Yes, in high school.
She was one of my favorite actresses. Yes. That's great. Yeah.
And so we've had also a couple of like NFL football players as well. So I was just like, I knew them. We went to school. So I was like, oh, let me put them in this. And I'm doing research, this and that. And come to find out, one of the neighborhoods in North Miami Beach is a historical Black neighborhood. So it was started in the 1920s. And I was like, I've been living in this city for 30-something years. Wow. And I never knew that. Like it's literally I can walk from my house to that neighborhood and had never known that was there. And so what I decided after I did the show, I was like, man, it would be so great if we could preserve that history. And from that idea came the book. And so what I did was, at the time when the idea came, I was like, well, in a couple of months is going to be Haitian Heritage Month. And I was like, why not start with my own heritage, right? And so I decided that I was going to start a series of books, and it was going to have characters Maya and Xavier. And I chose Maya and Xavier, those names, because they're very cultural based, right? So when you hear Maya, you hear Xavier, you automatically just think Black, right?
So true.
Right. So not to say that it's limited to just Black children or Black people, but it's just an experience where a lot of Black people don't get to experience what the books have to entail. So
can we, before we get into Maya and Xavier,
yes,
and how you got into the book, I wanted to touch upon a couple of things that you mentioned. I'm going to start at the beginning, which is what's in a name. Eunice Diona, flowers.
Yes.
And some of y'all may know this, some of you may not, but I'm also, I love to write. I also do poetry. I'm actually a published author myself, a poet. My dad and I have done a little compilation, father-daughter compilation. And when I write, I use my first and middle name as well.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh my goodness.
So most people know me, obviously my last name, which, I call my slave name. Anyway, but Kamara Denise is usually, that is my pen name that I usually go by.
Okay, yes.
So I just love that we have that particular connection. But then you also talked about making sure that your characters had the name Maya and Xavier, so you thought about the names. And so I just wanted to talk about more rooted, why is it so important for us as a people, especially to honor our names, to be clear? Like people ask me all the time, Kumara, what's a nickname? I don't have a nickname. You're going to call me Kumara. That's what it is. Yeah. And we just, that's what my mama named me.
Right. And so, which is a great question, right? Because we were having a conversation before this, and in the conversation we were talking about lineage and how Europeans kept their lineage, they kept family trees because it helped to pass down power. And that basically is why a name is so important, because it's going to help you identify who you are. And when you identify who you are, you can grasp a part of what gives you your power, right?
Yeah.
Names are powerful. For example, I know this is like a little nugget since we're talking. I have 2 birth certificates, right? My first birth certificate, I was named Natalie. And I was named after my grandmother. Her name is Atali, right? And then I don't know how the story went. And then my name was changed to what it is now, which is Eunice. And Eunice, basically, when it's translated, it's a Greek name, and it's translated into English or American to mean victorious, the victorious one. And so names are powerful. Like they mean a lot if you're intentional about the name, right? Because some people, but even then, right, when I think about when we were kids and people would make fun of people like, oh girl, your name is so long, it's like the dictionary. But it means something. It means that my mother or my father took time to make me unique, right? So we made fun of those things because it was like, oh, that's not an established name. But names are established when people come up with a name.
That's right.
Right? So that's what gives legacy. It gives history because it has to start from somewhere. So names are powerful. And that's why I chose Maya and Xavier, to give that identity to the characters.
And then the other piece, which I find fascinating, is that you were primarily raised in North Miami Beach, and you talked about literally being within walking distance of a historically Black neighborhood that you did not know was historically Black as you were growing up. You just realized that recently. And I hearken this back to experiences I had when I was a teacher. And I talk about this quite a bit. When I was a teacher in the classroom, and I worked in Newark Public Schools in Newark, New Jersey, an urban school district. And if you listen to, especially in the 2000s, about, and it was always, people knew it nationally because it was, everyone knew that, there was drive-by shootings and right, Brick City and all these negative connotations around crime. And so what happens is, of course, is that the people who live there take on that identity and take on that negativity around their identity. And so one of the things I would do is literally I would take the kids. I'm like, we're going to walk. And we're going to walk downtown. I'm like, Miss, why are we walking downtown? Like, we go here all the time. I'm like, yes, but do you know your history? And then I would go and I would say, well, here is Newark Symphony Hall. Did you know that um, uh, uh, Josephine Baker played here, and Martin Luther King has spoken here, and Malcolm X has spoken here? Did you know here's your Newark Museum where you can learn more about your history? You can go there for free. And their eyes were open. They're like, this is in our backyard. I said, yeah.
Right.
This is in your backyard. And I said, this is a historical neighborhood. Did you know that these are historical mansions where Black people lived and made millions of dollars? Miss, what you mean? That Black people lived in my neighborhood and made millions of dollars? Yes, that's exactly what I mean, exactly what I'm telling you. And the pride that would start coming up because they did not know their history. They did not know what actually it meant to live in this neighborhood, in this zip code.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that moment, if you had a moment similar to that? Or the importance for you to say it to folks?
I did have a moment like that. I remember growing up, we used to have what you would call neighborhood gang wars, if that makes sense.
It does.
I wasn't a part of the gang, just to be very clear, right? We're going to be transparent here. But I remember the guys in our neighborhood, it was just a thing, right? But I didn't know why it was a thing that we would rep our neighborhoods. So we were VP because we were Victory Park, or what they call Victory Pool. And then there was WP, which is Washington Park. And that's the historical Black neighborhood that we were talking about. Then you had UP. Then you had, what was it, like the 6th Ave boys? Like, so there, you just repped your turf kind of thing. And I remember at the time I used to be like, this is really dumb, right? So we're fighting. We didn't know what we were fighting about. You just know that you were repping your turf. That was it, right? And when I found out that particular neighborhood was a Black historical neighborhood, everything makes sense, right? I had that aha moment, like when you're a teacher and you're like, oh, I'm waiting for my students to have that aha moment. Yeah. That was my aha moment. Yeah. Because then it made sense that the reason why we even had those neighborhood turf wars, or let me rep my set or whatever it was because there was a specific history or legacy that the Washington Park Black people wanted to keep, right? So they wanted to preserve that piece of their history in North Miami Beach. And then us coming in as immigrants or children of immigrants, sometimes we don't think about who's already in that space, right? Yeah. And so we're not thinking about it because we're not from that area. So we don't know the history of that area. All we know is that our parents are trying to make a better life for us. So we come in and we don't ask any questions. We come in, we unpack our bags, and we live. And then, so from that, I understood, like, okay, Washington Park wanted to leave their mark. They wanted to leave their legacy. And now that I'm older and I do know that Washington Park is a historical Black neighborhood, it gives me a better appreciation for them now as well. And I wish that would have been passed on to us when we were younger, because I think a lot of those gang wars would not have been if we knew the importance of the Washington Park people. Yeah. So yeah, that was my aha moment in that whole thing.
No, I love that. I'm trying to think like, where do I want to go? But I'm going to go back to Maya and Xavier, I think. Yes. And I love the fact that you wrote a children's book. And obviously these are kids' character that we can relate to. I'm not quite sure how old they are. They seem later elementary, middle school, maybe. Okay. Yes. They're exploring Little Haiti in this particular book, but there's a refrain in there. I think almost every other 5 pages in the beginning, and then at the end, you keep saying again, yes, that they are explorers and adventurers. Can you talk? If you want to go to the book and say exactly what the lines are, and then talk to me about why that was so important and intentional for you.
So I'm so glad you caught that. You're really a writer. I love that, because as artists, or what we call creatives, I just like that you understood what I was trying to say. And so the line is, for Maya and Xavier were not just two friends on a journey. They were explorers, adventurers, and seekers of truth. And so that I repeated that line throughout the book because I want, as the children are reading it, to embody that type of curiosity when it comes to history. I want them to begin to become explorers. Like, you're not just sitting in a space and you're letting life happen, right? You're actually exploring, you're asking questions, you're becoming seekers of truth, because then that's when you're going to really, I want to say, chisel your own identity as well, is when you seek truth. Because people think that truth can be, I want to say, objective, right? But truth can be subjective as well, depending on your perspective and the lenses that you're wearing. Yeah. And so I want the readers to take that on, like, become seekers of truth, whatever that means in whatever context, right? And wherever you are in life, become a seeker of truth.
And when I'm thinking about them as explorers, they actually do things, interact in the spaces. So one of the things they do is they paint, like the painters do, which I thought, oh man, I love that. And then, of course, because as my friend knows, I love Haitian food. So then they ate. So they went and ate. And then you explained what picolis was and what griot was. Can you talk a little bit more about making sure that to some degree they're getting some language acquisition, really understanding? So instead of just saying, oh, I just went and got fried pork, they were like, no, I want griot, and understanding exactly like what it means when you say something in someone else's language and you honor that.
So I'm so excited. Oh my goodness, Kumar, like, I love this. So this is actually my first children's book, right? Like I said, I've written poetry before and I've done stage plays. And I'm not going to lie, this was very difficult because it's difficult to narrow down the stories or the scenes so it keeps the children's attention. But what I did like about this book is the fact that when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of books written about Haitians at all. Like, a lot of Haitian history is by word of mouth, right? So we learn things because, just like how Martin just gave a beautiful presentation a couple of minutes ago, it's through word of mouth, right? It's not anything that's written. Like, my grandmother didn't come from Haiti with a book or anything like that. And so I was happy to be able to give that experience here in the book, right? So I was happy to be able to tell them that fried pork is griot, and if you want to go to a Haitian restaurant, order griot, or pickles, that it's a coleslaw that is not only it's a traditional Haitian coleslaw, but other cultures also have a form of pickles as well. Yeah. I know Mexicans do. Koreans, Koreans kind of have what is like similar to kimchi. Right? So that way we're exposing them to the language, like the Haitian Creole language. Yeah. So that was exciting to be able to do that in the book.
I love that. So. And I don't want to mess up my history here, but there was another piece in here that I was like, oh, okay, I might need to go to Little Haiti and see this piece. I do go to Little Haiti Cultural Center and, a few other things that you mentioned. I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with this. But I did not know that there was this, because maybe I wasn't paying attention. There is a statue of Toussaint Louverture, a towering symbol of Haitian pride and resilience. Can you talk about the inclusion of, and by the way, I'm just going to, I love this powerful image. Oh yeah, this is great, right? And we have this in the children's book. Yes. So important. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
So the premise of these books, right? So this is actually the first, but I have another one for Overtown. But I've written the one for Overtown. I just haven't published it yet. But the idea is that this is a tour of specific Black areas or cultural areas. I don't want to keep it just Black, but cultural areas, and more importantly, areas that may become gentrified. Okay, so the Little Haiti that I know growing up is almost obsolete, and so that's why I was actually excited that the idea popped up in my head at the right time, because now Little Haiti is going to be named Magic City. It's no longer Little Haiti. And so these books are preserving what used to be Little Haiti. And so what happens is a couple of streets down from the Little Haiti Cultural Center, that's why you didn't know that the statue was there. It's just a couple of streets down. So you have the Notre Dame Catholic Church, and then the Pimon Bouk restaurant. Okay. And across from the street from the Pimon Bouk restaurant is the statue.
Okay, I like to go.
Yes. And it's just in a small little park, a small little area. And what I also did is, if you look in the books, this is where the technology component.
I was going to come here to our QR codes. Okay. Yeah, love it.
So
let's bring it.
What happens is, I'm looking for, it's just like a few QR codes. What happens is you can scan the QR codes. It'll take you to our website. Like, for instance, here, the QR code.
I'm going to bring it up a little.
And then it'll give you an actual virtual tour of the space. So I have a team, we go out there and we, you do just like how realtors do the virtual tour of a house or whatnot. The kids get a virtual tour of the space. So you can be in Chicago and you've never been to the Little Haiti Cultural Center, but you purchase the book and then you scan the QR code and you're there, right? So you get like the whole 360 revolution of the space. And I did the same thing with the statue. We went over there and, we set up all our cameras and everything. And you can go on the website, or when you scan the QR code, and you'll see the statue the way that it is.
Yeah.
So, that was the idea of it. Like, bring the books to life, bring them to you.
And they are. I mean, they're totally in life. And so let's go to your dedication. You are a mother.
Yes.
And the book is dedicated to your children.
Yes.
So if you want to give them a little shout out.
Yes. So I'm shouting out my babies to my cherished children, Kason Samuel, Hadassah Zipporah, Zion Khalid, and Khalil Kane. Your presence in my life became a beacon of hope and light on even the darkest paths. With your arrival, everything became clearer and success took on a new meaning. So, that's my dedication. I think that if I didn't have children, I'm just thinking, I don't know, but I feel that if I hadn't had children of my own, that I would not have cared to even write a children's book, because my children are of mixed ancestry as well. And so I'm the Haitian part of my children. And I was happy to be able to write a book that they could also carry on the, legacy and some Haitian tradition or heritage for their children as well.
Yeah.
So that was like near and dear to my heart.
I love that. Their names sound very powerful, and I was reading through them. Can you?
Yes.
I don't want to. You don't have to give me necessarily the meanings, but you want to talk a little bit about the. I mean, we talked about the importance of names, but when you're naming your own children.
So their names are pretty much Hebrew. Kason Samuel was a prophet. He spoke to the people. He could hear the voice of God, and so Kason's my first child, and I felt that when I had him, I heard the voice of God, right? And so I had Kason. It was like during some difficult times, but I heard the voice of God, and I was just like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and have this child. Hadassah is known as Esther, that her English name. But I kept Hadassah because it means beautiful laurel tree, right? But her beauty, a lot of people don't think about beauty. Beauty is a gift. Beauty is like money. It's just a tool, and you can use your beauty in various ways, right? And Hadassah used her beauty to save her people. And so that's why I named, her Hadassah. And Zipporah was, a lot of people don't know, Moses is in the Bible, his wife. Right. She isn't mentioned a lot, but she's a very powerful character to Moses, because it was through her father that Moses learned a lot of his governing skills when he governed the people of Israel. And so Zipporah was also known to be a very strong, dark woman. And it's crazy because she's the darker one of my children, right? Out of all my kids. Oh, wow. And her name means dark princess. And then Zion Khalid means ruling scepter. So that and he has a lot. So yeah, and it's crazy. It's like you name them and then they become the name. And then I have Kal-El Kane. A lot of people don't know that Kal-El is the name of Superman, right? Because Kal-El, because Superman was supposed to be a representation of Moses, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's why he's put on the ship and brought from his country, or like how Moses was put in a basket to come and save his people.
Yeah.
So that's what Superman is supposed to be. He's supposed to be the savior of humanity, and just like Moses was the savior of humanity. So I named him Kal-El.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, yeah.
So I don't know if you want to talk about this, but it sounds like spirituality is very rooted in the work that you do and the ways that you think through and walk through life. You could just talk a little bit about the correlation between spirituality and your writing, and or not. It's totally up to you. I know we didn't ask about.
No, I think spirituality plays a big part in our writing. And going back to the fact that this book is a cultural book, right? And a lot of our culture is rooted in spirituality, no matter what, Black, European, Haitian, American, Indian, Hindu. We have a lot of spirituality in our cultures, because in a lot of ways, spirituality gives you your identity, right? Because in a lot of cultures, we understand that we're not just physical. When you look at from a scientific perspective, Einstein had a famous experiment that he did where he weighed a body, right, when the person was alive and then when the person was dead. And there was only, I don't want to get the numbers too wrong, but it was a very, it almost seems insignificant, the percentage of difference between when the body is alive and when the body is dead. And his question was, I want to say like 1%, like when you're dead, you weigh 1% less, right, than when you're alive. And his famous question was, where did that 1% go? And the only way you could really answer it is to say that there's a part of us that is invisible or spiritual, that when we die, that is death, right? That it departs from the physical, and that's that 1% that's gone. And so in a lot of ways, it does give us our identity, because that 1%, without that 1%, you can't even move. There's no movement, there's no brain activity, there's nothing. So spirituality does play a big piece in us being able to identify ourselves as people. So the books are all about identity. I don't talk about specifically spiritual things, but spirituality does play a role in the writing.
Yeah.
So
I want to give a shout out to your illustrator. I found that the pictures were like very vibrant, coming off the page.
I was specific about that.
So you were specific about the look that you were looking for. Why? And what direction did you give her or him? So I don't know if it's
so for this particular book, I wanted it to be vibrant because it was about the Haitian culture. And I remember growing up, and it was a thing. They used to make fun of us, right? When we were Haitians, they used to be like, "Ooh, y'all wear a lot of colors." You remember that, right? So I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, "Oh, y'all can't coordinate." They just. But as you're growing and you understand culture, you understand identity, you understand nationality and ethnicity, you understand that that's a part of the culture, right? And so I wanted the pictures to show that, like, we have a lot of colors. We're a vibrant people, even in our dressing and everything that we do, it's vibrant. So I wanted the pictures to convey that message, that we're a colorful people.
I love that. Before we close out, do we have any questions from the audience?
How old are the children in the book?
So they're late elementary school, early middle school. That allows them to be explorers without it being dangerous, right? Because they're not with adults,
right?
So yeah.
So they're exploring Little Haiti by themselves?
Yes. Oh, wow. Yes, they're exploring Little Haiti themselves. And I wanted to put that element in because before this time, the world wasn't considered as dangerous. So when we were children, we were allowed to do a lot of things that now children don't do. So I wanted that element added in the books. When I was a kid, I was allowed to I live in North Miami Beach, but I think there were probably a couple of times I walked way over here to come to a friend's house. It was just that much freedom when we were children. And so as long as you were home when the street lights came on, you were okay. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Very true. Very true. Any other questions? Okay, so before we close out, Ms. Eunice, is there anything that I did not ask that you want to make sure that you say to our audience?
No, I think you covered. Yeah, I think you covered everything.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good. So I was about to say.
Yes. Oh, so you can find the book. It's called. I'm going to tell you right now. The website. I should have made it shorter, but culturalconnectionscompass.com. So
we'll put it in the show notes. Culturalconnectionscompass.com.
Yes. Cultural Connections Compass.
And you can also, shall we just pull up? You can also Google Maya's and Xavier's adventures in Little Haiti. So, great question. Well, Eunice, thank you so much for being on our Meet the Author, our last one of 2024. And this was a beautiful one. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Take care.